The Survivor 50 reunion and live final episode just happened, and there is so much to break down. Production errors. Did the winner deserve it? How did we get here to this point in Survivor Season 50? And Season 51 is on the horizon. We got a lot to get to, so let's get to Episode 13, Survivor Season 50, Reverse the Curse. If you have not watched Survivor Episode 13 in the 50th season, Reverse the Curse, please click off this video because I'm going to spoil it right now. Okay, Aubrey Bracco is her name, and she is the champion of Survivor Season 50, which, if you told me coming into this season that Aubrey would win, I would tell you you're lying. How did this happen? How did we get here? We'll go through it tonight, but I am happy for Aubrey as a person. For myself as a fan, I'm not so enthralled. And, I certainly wanted her to win over Jonathan and Joe at the end. But I believe there are much more capable players who should have won this game, especially the players that gone out at 4, 5, 6, and even 7. But that's what happens in these returner seasons. All the big players get taken out early, and we get left with the scraps of the people who you wouldn't expect to be here. Like I mentioned in my last week's episode, if you had to tell me the people who didn't want to be in the final, and like the people who are probably least deserving to be on 50, well, not deserving is the wrong word, but like least that I was interested in seeing on 50, basically all of them except for Stephanie made it to the final 5. But so much happened tonight. The Firemaker loser spoiled on live television. Jeffrey Probst, what are you doing, bro? He's 64. It might be time to hang it up, and we are never getting a live reunion again. And as long as Jeff's the EP of the show, because of stuff that happened right there. But I mean, that to me is the biggest thing of this episode. How does that happen? How do you let that happen, Jeff? A spoiler in the actual episode. Were you not watching the show happen? Crazy stuff. Rizzo taken out in fire. Felt pretty bad for the Riz God. Back to back, he played fucking 60 days. Like, what is it? 50 days of Survivor and went out in the exact same spot in both of those games. I think Rizzo should have won this game. I wanted him to win of the 5 people left. Obviously, I wanted Sarita to win, and then Rick could have been thrown in there, but we had a lot to get to tonight, and I thought this reunion was dog shit. I'm sorry. We're not talking to any of the pre-jurors. We just drink a Corona with them. Like, this shit was sponsored out the kazoo, too. Not only does Aubrey get $2 million, she gets a car, too. What are we doing? Give that to the fan favorite or something, Give it to the second place or the third placer. Like, she doesn't need $2 million and a car from Mr. B's donation. Honestly, after tonight, I feel like Jeff is very out of touch with Survivor. I've been slow to admit, like, Survivor's cooked and Survivor's one of my favorite shows, but season 48 wasn't great, season 49 wasn't great, and now we have season 50, which like was propped up due to returning players, but they're going to run with these twists now because they think we like them just because the returning players were there. Pretty disappointing night out of Survivor tonight, and heading into the season I had so much hype for it, but to know that I'd just be disappointed at the end of this finale, I mean, it's probably to be expected because nothing ever goes well for me in Survivor. Just kidding, I like Kyle and I like Savannah and I like Rachel. I'm just kidding, but I don't know. I'm not super high on Survivor right now after watching that finale. Like, I feel like they kind of blew the bag in my opinion. I think you compare them to a show like The Traitors, like something that happened tonight would never happen on The Traitors. Shit getting spoiled. Like, The Traitors actually fucking talk to the people who got out of the game. The Traitors is 1 hour of the show and then 1 hour of a reunion. Meanwhile, Survivor has 3 hours and they can't even fucking achieve it. By the way, Survivor has 3 hours to play with on a regular reunion with no live anything. I feel like the reunion segments were pretty stupid in my opinion. Besides, like, there were some cool, like, I feel like we were 50-50 on the reunion segments. I'm just trying to spitball overall thoughts before I get into the specifics of it all. Tiffany voted out at 5. I think she'll be back, like I mentioned in a short video. Jonathan asked me for time. Well, let's just get into the episode. So, we started out, Jeff Probst is wearing all black because tonight's Survivor's funeral. I think this is it. This might be it. We might be cooked in the next couple of years. Walk with me when I say this, guys. And I hate to say this. I think I'm more excited for Big Brother this summer than for Survivor. It's just the way this ended was so sad. Last week's episode was horrible in and of itself. Not to mention the people we lost in that episode, but like the way the episode was structured was horrible. It felt like the show went out with a whimper. Like I'm not like, yay, Aubrey won, and I don't care about Aubrey the way, I know there are some Aubrey haters out there, including a couple friends of mine, but like, I'm not like yay, Aubrey won, and I guess I would have felt if Jonathan won, I'd feel even worse. So there's that. And if Joe won, if Joe won, that would be funny. Would that not be funny if Joe just won this season? But Jeff's opening monologue, he says, if you're a new fan of the show, we know most of you are here from Billie Eilish, Jimmy Fallon, Mr. Beast, and the other person who's here, Zach Brown. Brother, I don't think any of them are here for those people. Billie Eilish, no one even knew she was going to be on the fucking show. Well, I guess you did know from the trailer, theoretically. I don't know. Maybe there is a decent amount of fans, but that was a big slap in the face to the super fans right off the gate from Jeff. We want to thank the celebrities. Come on, dude. Stop licking these Hollywood people's feet and fucking make a good show, Jeff. God damn it. I'm crashing out. I don't know why. So that was an annoying point for me right off the bat. I did like this post-tribal council scene of Tiffany being pretty upset with Aubrey based off of last week's vote. Sari voted out. I did forget to mention that Sari wasn't voted out unanimously. Sorry about that. Tiffany voted with her in my short video. I was corrected a couple times in the comments. You guys like to eat me up alive over there. That's fine. I can take it. I can take the heat. But I like the spicy Tiffany we got in this episode. She knows she's going home, so she's just playing with fire. Being spicy, being out there, not willing to say what's what. And she was right. Tiff was right. Can we talk about that part? She was right about this shit, saying Aubrey's a threat. Aubrey won the fucking game, people. Should have listened to Tiff. Tiff. I wonder if Tiff, and they didn't even run this, on the basic level, you can ask if the fourth placer would have done shit. Can we get a show of hands? Who would have voted for Rizzo if he was there? It's like, we couldn't even get that tonight. We had one shot of the cast all there at the end. It was disappointing. To imagine these players, and then they have to show up to, actually, there is some stuff I want to talk about, but you have to show up. Let's take, who is somebody like Kyle? Kyle already won the game, God bless him, but he had to come from New York. He's still rehabbing his fucking meniscus. He tore for you guys in season 50. We couldn't even get how's the meniscus doing? We just toasted Colby Donaldson in his last season at the reunion saying fuck you. I guess they just don't care about what happens to pre-mergers. That's what you're telling me. Because we have the after show, and then we have, they talk to the jury, and that's it. Nothing for Colby Donaldson, nothing for Genevieve, who was a big part of the first half of the season, nothing for Camilla, who did nothing. I like Camilla, but she was barely on the show. Nothing for Angelina. Angelina was invisible tonight. Damn, bro. D, Coach, this was it. Coach got his last couple things at the end, but his last word. But this was an abysmal reunion. I'm sorry. And I hate the segmented stuff. Just show us the show for 2 hours and do a reunion for an hour. Or show us the show for 2.5 hours, then do the reunion after the votes are read. Damn, bro, you ran out of fucking time. This was awfully planned. Shit was spoiled. You had months to plan on this. Everyone knew it was going to be a live reunion, so you could have just started planning it. That was one of the first things we knew coming out of the season. We knew that it was probably going to be fire making and that there was going to be a reunion. Oh, so frustrating, dude. This show could be so good, and people want to watch Survivor. I watched this video. I don't know who this guy is. I shout out this guy, but he was there was a whole bunch of fans that came over to watch Survivor. My cousin now watches Survivor. My sister now watches Survivor. And you give us this dog shit ass. This could be so fire, bro. And we hit a stride. We had season 45. We had season 46. We had season 47. They were so good. And then it just all washed away. And we're heading towards an open era where Jeff thinks that we want more advantages and more bullshit happening in the game. It's insane, dude. It's insane. I feel like I'm trapped in a mental hospital, bro. Let me take over this show. Put me on at least. All right. All that to say, Tiffany giving it to Aubrey, the spiciness, at least somebody's fucking giving good television. Thanks, Tiff. And then we're going to have a character tier ranking too for season 50. And, I'm going to have a hard time placing Joe in this season because Joe is just comedic gold on this season, bro. He says that this is immature from Tiffany, and I was watching with my mom and my sister. We all just rolled our eyes. It's such classic Joe. I had to laugh out loud. It's so funny. So that was interesting. Tiffany's like, F you, and I respect Tiffany for that. Tiffany was probably my favorite player out of this episode. I do like the strategic. So there was whispers of this alliance being a thing this whole season between Jonathan, Rizzo, and Joe, and that they were kind of the central piece of everything structured. You know, we were shown Rizzo to Oz, but Rizzo was actually loyal to Joe and Jonathan because those are the two people he might have a chance with at the end. And ideally, you know, I listened to a great video by Rob Cesternino talking about the scenarios. He was right, you know, and they were playing for that final three of Joe, Jonathan, and Rizzo. And I wonder, does Rizzo garner the respect of people like D, Suri, and Ozzy? Like if he can swing that group, like I'm not sure Jonathan might get like the middle people. I don't know. I feel like that would be a super interesting to vote. Obviously, we didn't get that tonight. You know, proud of Aubrey, she won the game, whatever. But good to see that Rizzo and Jonathan were wanting this final three with each other, and Joe, they are playing optimally. And I think, you know, I disagree with Jonathan wholeheartedly on his political views. You know, I've leaned the other way, and I don't ever want to talk about politics, and I don't, you know, I don't endorse that. But I think Jonathan did play a good game, and he played better than he did in 42. And his 42 game is slept on. Like I think he was actually playing pretty well strategically. I feel like it is a little overrated though. Like he was kind of left out of the Steph vote. He kind of had to watch his people go out and coach and Chrissy. But I feel like Jonathan played pretty well, and he was playing like pretty optimally. And I think Rizzo was playing optimally too as well. So I want to give both those guys credit because, you know, Jonathan did get 3 votes. He did get some credit tonight, but I feel like he did play a good game. And I think both of them played better than Aubrey. Hot take. I don't care. Sari is brought out as our first person on the stage. She gets a standing ovation, you know, brings tears to her eyes. I'm all for that. That was great. I feel like from that, you start off with the most interesting and most like emotional bring out of the night. You know, it was like, okay, we're gonna bring out Christian and Rick now, and we're gonna bring out Ozzy and Stephanie out now. I don't know. I think maybe you should just save Sri towards the end. Maybe that would make us feel better going into this. But Sri is brought out, you know, tears to her eyes. She gets to talk about how this game has changed her life, and you know, I love Sri. We all love Sri. She gets the standing O, good for her, and she gets the Spirit of Survivor award. I said cool beans. You know, I'm down with that. I think she is the Spirit of Survivor, social game queen. Got up off the couch. You know, Jeff loved to say it. He still says that. So, Mother Suri, good job winning that award. You know, I want to see if Suri has a memorabilia room. I need to see that because she's probably got some crazy alumni at this point, or alumni memorabilia. Complex Final Five challenge. I thought this was a very interesting one where, you know, felt a little bit called back to the old school. They have these complicated ass Final Five challenges. You got to like climb up a ladder, release a rope, cut the rope, you know, build a ladder to get up to a puzzle. Insanely close challenge. I did want to call out Jonathan yuking in the middle of the challenge. Ah, gross, dude. We don't need to see that. This isn't the challenge, you know? But damn, bro, Tiff was that fucking close. And, you know, I don't know if Tiff would have been able to make fire. Those people were on fucking crack making that fire, dude. Well, Jonathan especially. You know, we'll talk about it. But Tiff loses at the last second. You know, is that like one of Tiff's themes this season, losing to Jonathan at the last second, lost that immunity 2 weeks ago, or was that last week? I think it was 2 weeks ago to Jonathan, and now she loses again at the final second to Jonathan. So yeah, and this is when, you know, I don't really care about Jonathan either way. I know a lot of people don't like him. I don't really like him or hate him, but he was very cringy in this celebration and like doing like the worm and shit. Like, bro, grow up. You know, you have your moment. Be cool like Gabe Ortiz and do the Ray Lewis dance. You know, but I don't know. He was being cocky and like screaming like, yeah. You know, it's like, dude, we're good. Jonathan, we're good, brother. You know, so that was kind of making me not like Jonathan as much throughout this episode. But luckily for us, we got blessed with Rick and Christian's presence on the screen. Basically, the only actual moment they talked about that happened during the entire season because, you know, we get to Mike White and we get to Stephanie and Ozzy, but nothing really of like, I guess, you know, Ozzy. That is, they probably did cover the 2 biggest moments of the merge: Ozzy not playing his idol, and then the fake idol from Rick. But they go behind the scenes of like, how did they do this? They're like, well, we planned this. You know, Christian was gonna fall. We didn't want to hurt his knees, and Jeff gives Rick the coin, which, you know, that's a cool piece of memorabilia as well. The big question is, where is Aubrey taking Rick out for dinner and the fam? You know, we saw Devin's family, and I have nothing but high things to say about Devins at this point. I think he is kind of like a what's the word I'm looking for? Not pushover, but like a shell. He's kind of like a shill. No, a shill for the show. But he was good TV. Like Devins brought it this season. You know, he's playing hard. He was making good TV. So Devins, I respect you now, and we'll solve that beef from Edge of Extinction off air if you ever watch this video. Okay, Tiffany back at camp. Seemingly she would be the one unanimously left out a vote. And we're splicing in the set. Like for me, I hate the segmented reunion. I think I already touched on that, but like just give us the game, what happens. We read the votes, maybe we go to the crowd. Like, it's fine. I think it's in an ideal finale, like making an agreement with Jeff, even though I just crashed out for 10 minutes. Making an agreement with Jeff being like, hey, you want some of your stuff, I want some of my stuff. I'm okay if you bring out Tiffany and you bring out Rizzo after they get eliminated and to give a couple words. But save the Christian and Rick stuff, save the Stephanie and Ozzy stuff, and save the Cerise stuff for the end. And then we have an actual reunion. This wasn't a reunion. This was like a dinner party or like Knives Out. Like I don't even know how to describe. That was probably a terrible like description, but like this wasn't a reunion in my opinion. And we have the pre. I don't know if I'm even going to get to that. Yeah, I don't even think I took notes on the pre-jury. Thank God for Coronas with lime in them. They get to cheers. Like fucking Charlie probably has fucking emotional scars. Well, we'll talk about Charlie and actually the next thing I'm going to talk about. But I keep saying Charlie is a bad example. Mother Vive, she came all this way from fucking Canada just to sit there and drink a Corona Light because you got sponsored by Corona Light somehow. Fuck you, fuck you. We got, well, I guess we didn't get to talk to the. Add an extra episode at this point and bring back Ponderosa while you're at it. There must have been some feisty battles at Ponderosa between the old schoolers and the new schoolers on like what was going on and how we are going to vote. I believe pretty much, well, Ozzy, whatever. We'll talk about that. But I thought Tiffany did some pretty good work putting in, trying to flip it onto Aubrey. This was probably just a red herring. Like I called it last week. I think, was my finale prediction correct? I don't know. I remember what I said. I definitely had Aubrey winning and Tiffany out in fifth, but I don't know if the middle was right. Maybe Jonathan. I think I did put Jonathan second, so maybe I did have this right. But Tiffany put in decent work, I thought, to try and flip the vote, but it's hard to tell what's actually a red herring. She's like, I know I'm not going to get Rizzo. Rizzo at least is straight up with her, but she's talking to John and Joe like, hey, Aubrey's a threat, bro. I wonder if she's right, but it is what it is. Tiffany, even though being, clearly visibly upset and pissed off, she's able to still be a good gamer. And I'm super down to see Tiffany play again at this point, which, yeah, I like that. But in between the tribal council, we get a cut in from Mike White on a fucking TV, like he's fucking like in Austin Powers or whatever analogy you want to make for like a TV who just walks around and moves around, with a voice. But Jeff's just talking to a TV. Mike White, thank God, he's up at fucking. I'm sorry for cursing so much, by the way. He's up at 4 a.m. filming White Lotus, but he took a break for Survivor because he loves Survivor so much. And he's writing season 4. Jeff kind of goads him into telling us who from this cast will be on White Lotus. And you'll never believe who he picks. Open invite to everybody. You hear that, Christian? You can come back. You can go back to White Lotus. Head out there now. Head out to France. I heard it's nice this time of year, Christian. I know you're off from school. Go to France. Say what's up to Mikey boy. You guys are cool, right? That wasn't relevant enough to talk about the reunion. Definitely not, right? Mike White inviting every single person on the season 50 cast to a party except for Christian. Who cares about that, right? We don't care about that. We want to give Ozzy a t-shirt. We want to give Stephanie credit for doing nothing. So annoying, dude. This show could be so good. But Mike White gives out the cameos to Camilla and Charlie, which is awesome. Like, I love Camilla. Like, I think Camilla's a really cool person on social media. Like, she's open, she's honest, she's herself. Could have easily won 48. Like, I liked her on 48. She was the only one actually, like, trying to do shit on 48 and, like, play the game in a cool way. And Charlie, I don't know. I feel like Charlie's run was too short here. I really thought Charlie was going to do well in this season. He didn't do well at all. He's got some wounds to deal with. I think the D stuff and cool to see. Mike White had that initial tribe with both of them. So Charlie and Camilla, they're just in the back room. This isn't even a moment to bring them out on stage or anything. This season's just flying at the seat of its, or just this reunion is just flying at the seat of its pants. But cool for Tiffany, not Tiffany. Charlie and Camilla, pre-merge in season 50, they didn't quite live up to the thing. I know Camilla doesn't think she's coming back. I do think Charlie could come back, especially if Maria's casted somehow. But I would actually find it pretty unlikely to see Camilla, at least in the near future. But I do think they genuinely love everyone in the season, so it wouldn't surprise me if anyone from 50 who wasn't retiring came back. Anyways, passionate travel from Jeffrey. I did like this tribal council. I think the final 5 round was the best round because it wouldn't spoil for us. But I did like the passionate plea from Tiffany, and felt like she was actually fighting for her life, which you don't see a lot at Tribal Council. Jeff was talking pretty openly about game dynamics, which I thought was interesting and new, and I like that. Where Tiffany's like, "Well, I think the reason," or Tiffany's like, "There's a reason why they want to go with Aubrey and not, or they want to get me out and not each other." And Jeff's like, "Hey, maybe you think they have an alliance?" And Tiffany or Jeff's like, "You think it's gonna be you tonight, Tiff?" And he's like, "Yeah." I thought we were gonna get a Tiff hit the beach. She was already 10 feet in front of the other players when she was walking back to camp. I thought we were gonna get her throw the bag somewhere and just start looking for the idol somehow. Um, but I guess this season just had the Billie Eilish Boomerang idols and the Mr. Beast idols. That was it. So only your fans. We voted for idols, right? Well, we just gave them to the celebrities. We're fucking peasants, dude. We mean nothing to probes, bro. We're just little specks in the world of Survivor. Look at me. I'm sitting in a basement talking about this. He doesn't care what I have to say. Hands of the fans. More like hands in the 4 celebrities. Survivor 52, Mr. Beast. That's more possible than us getting fucking 2 tribes. But even though we are getting 2 tribes, apparently. Okay. Um, we have the final 5 tribal. Rizzo plays his idol. I think he did a good job of not making it annoying for the jury and everything. I know some people on 49, it's been talked about, it's been debated, were annoyed with him and how he handled himself in that season. So super curious to hear if Rizzo had win equity in this season. He goes out in fourth. We'll talk about him in a second. But it seems like Tiff. I think Tiff, if you replace her with Aubrey, I think she definitely gets Dee's vote. She definitely gets who else? Cerie's vote. She probably gets Aubrey's vote. And if she can swing the middle players like Christian and Rick, that's all you need. Because I think Emily would probably go where D goes. I think Tiffany could easily win. Well, actually, I think Emily would vote for Tiff. So I think Tiff would have won this game if she made it to the end. It was just a super hard road, especially with a firefighter, and then Jonathan making fire at an insane rate at the final 4. Aubrey, I guess, is a final four fire maker at a point. But yeah, Tiffany was voted out unanimously in a 4-1 vote. No surprise there. Definitely think Tiffany will be back. She had a fun segment with Jeff on the stage. Honestly, they should have showed us more Tiff throughout the season. She was kind of a ghost in the first couple episodes, like I mentioned when I was predicting the finale. I think she's just been a ghost in the first couple episodes, and they do that to the 5th place boot for some reason. Genevieve it happened to, Lindsay Delashowitz it happened to, Heather it happened to. It's just a very weird trend that they go with for editing. So I hope they switch that up if it ever happens. And it's all women who get that edit. It's very odd. Who was 5th place last year or last season? Christina. Christina didn't really get a great edit. I don't know. It's a weird phenomenon with the Survivor community or the Survivor editing team when a male or when a female gets 5th place, they just edit her to be shit. Who is Mitch? Mitch got a great edit. This is bullshit. Woman equality and shit, But yeah, Tiff had a horrible edit to start, so it was kind of really, not looking likely that she would win the game, although Aubrey's edit to start with the game was also fucking awful, so I don't know. Weird edited season, just, maybe they're metagaming the edit. I don't know. Open air, right? Who cares? So we get to the final 4. Immunity challenge. My vote hit Samotion. I don't even remember what the options were for the final 4 immunity, but Samotion's hype. I love when they're up in that platform. Of course, Jonathan has to make it cringy by waving to the crowd and shit. We're good, brother. But super interesting challenge between Aubrey and Joe. It comes down to I did call that. It was kind of obvious that Aubrey was going to win this, just the way that she was talking before the challenge and I need to win this, blah 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 blah. And the edit fucking foreshadowed she's easily gonna win this season, so we had to just know she's gonna get there somehow. And if none of them are willing to take her, then she's just gonna win the challenge probably, unless she beats Rizzo in fire, which was decently likely, but probably not. But yeah, Samotion was crazy. I love Samotion. Bring it back for every finale. I'd be perfectly fine with that. Or bring back the 46 one they played with. That was fun. Where I don't know, it was interesting. It was different. But not only before we get to Samotion, we have to bring out more people. We have to bring out Stephanie. Stephanie being one of the more popular players of the season. Do the casuals even like Stephanie? Am I tripping? I don't know. I don't think many people cared about Stephanie as much as you think, bro. I don't think The online community hates her, the superfans hate her. Unless she has like a Facebook pop, like I don't see a lot of love for Stephanie. So that was a surprising. And no, because I was going to say they just brought out all the old school players, but they didn't bring out Coach. They didn't give Coach a segment. They didn't give Colby a segment. They gave Stephanie and Ozzy a segment, and they didn't give any of the new school jury members a segment. Nobody from the new era got a segment on the jury. D, Emily, was there even other jury members? I don't know, but like, what the fuck, bro? I want to hear from D. I don't want to hear from Stephanie. I want to hear from Emily. Emily. You guys gave her a dog shit edit, and she was fucking way more interesting than Stephanie on this season. Come on. Oh, it's just awful. The show could be so good. Okay, so yeah, we'll roll with the punches that Stephanie's one of the most popular players. We talked to Ozzy about his dream about the idol, which is an insane thing that happened, by the way. I feel like I can't even, I wake up from a dream, I don't even remember what happened. Like 10 minutes later, but for him to have this vivid dream to play the idol, like, if I go out there and I have vivid dreams, that's locked with the key in. If I get an idol, I'm just playing it, because, like, I'd be tweaking. We get a t-shirt for Ozzy, which was funny. It says, like, please play the idol, Ozzy, we love you, or something. So good gab gifts from Jeff. He gives out the coin, the shirt, and the award to Cerise. So fine enough. I just question why we saw Stephanie instead of any of the other players out there, but I digress. I'm being too mean at points. It was fine. So Aubrey wins. Like I mentioned, it comes down to her and Joe. It was pretty forecasted by that she was going to win this season, not to mention this challenge, because she kind of needed to win this challenge, expected at that point. But it was good for her to win that one. And yeah, I don't know. It's emotion. She practiced it before the season, got on Etsy, which I don't. How do you do that? How do you get Etsy, or how do you get Emotion on Etsy? I think maybe I need to do that, but good for her. She wins immunity. She tells Joe pretty early that he's going to the final three with her. Joe gets brought to the final three in both of his seasons, and good for Joe. Pretty emotional to make it. Respect to Joe. Joe is funny, and we love Joe on this channel. I will not hear any Joe slander. He ran, like Emily said, every vote ran through him, bro. He was aura. He was playing an old school game. You guys went old school, but then when someone plays it like Joe, you say poo poo. Come on now. But Joe joins the group of with Michelle to both times to play and to never go get voted out. So elite company, and I think Amanda Kimmel's in that group as well. Well, Amanda Kimmel got voted out in Heroes versus Villains. So yeah, he ties Amanda Kimmel's first two appearances. Michelle, Russell, Hans, an elite group. Joe Hunter just entered tonight. So respect for Joe. He gets to be a part of history. And, if he's a good or bad part of history, that's on you. So she tells the other two they're going to fire, which leads to a big practice day between Rizgod and Jonathan. And yeah, I felt pretty bad for Rizgod throughout this. Like, he played the whole season, he get cooked by the stupid challenge. And I was saying to my family, like, I think we're good with the fire making, to be honest. Like, everyone's just insanely cracked at it. So it's like, what's the point in this? It's like, I know it's your chance to give like the big gut, in theory, if like Aubrey hadn't won, like give her one last chance to like win this and like make it to the final three. But that's a part of the game. Like, the biggest threat in every season doesn't win because you're supposed to manage your threat level. Like, it's just so annoying how Jeff doesn't understand how the game of Survivor works after all these years. Like, think about it. In season 38, like, Rick had his chance, lost anyway. He was the biggest threat to win at the end. Season 39, Tommy was probably the biggest threat just from an overarching standpoint. He won. Season 40, Tony was the biggest threat. He won. I guess he had to go through fire, but like, would he have been voted out at Final Four? I think they would have just. Well, I guess it would be a 2-2 vote, and you'd probably have to go to fire anyway. But like, show us the vote first. That'd make it more interesting. But I know I'm fighting a losing battle on that one. Apparently, 60% of us voted for fire making. So there you go on that. But Joe, just like he helped out Eva, does help out Rizgod with the fire making, which was a cute moment. We kind of knew, like, watching my family's like, we know Joe's gonna go over there and help him out, right? And yeah, he does. So good for Joe. Joe's a good dude. I don't know I actually have been like super offline. I deleted Twitter for this to be unspoiled on the whole season. But yeah, for Joe, like, I don't know what's going on with him, like blocking half the cast. I know he blocked Savannah and like whatever happened there. I don't know, but like, Joe's a good dude. I got respect for Joe. Is he the most interesting Survivor player? No. Do I need to see him back ever again? Probably not. And he should never come back because he can make it to the final both times and never, get voted out, which is a cool thing to say. So we get the most insane segment in television history, in live television history. I don't know how they screwed this up. I really don't know how they screwed this up, where Jeff brings out Riz God on the screen, is talking to him for like 2 to 3 sentences, and like my sister was like, "How does Riz God not know that he's like supposed to do this?" They just get told what to do, probably. And we now know Jeff is definitely not watching the episode, and is the what's going on in the reunion. Like that was the most insane error in Survivor history. We're never getting a reunion, by the way, ever again, which is obvious. But I was in shock. That was my talking point. Like, congrats to Aubrey, but they spoiled it. Like, I know this season's been spoiled to shit. Where apparently my friend just said he knew that Rizzo was out in fire for like months now in back-to-back seasons before 49 even aired. But dude, you can't do that. Like, I actually was so like, it's crazy to say this, or no, it's not even crazy to say this. I knew that Tiffany would be voted out at 5. Like, I knew Aubrey was probably winning the season, but my biggest question was like, what happens in fire making? And watching them practice, I was like, oh fuck, Rizzo's like getting some steam. Like Jonathan's like, I don't know, Rizzo's picking it up. Jonathan's pretty overconfident, but like there's a chance Rizzo could have just caught it. Like it was kind of setting up a Rizzo. I don't know. The edit, I'm really bad at reading the edit. I just listen to other people and what they have to say, but it was kind of setting up that Rizzo might pull this shit out. And then it's like, oh Rizzo, you join the jury with like they have the open jury stool for him, and they're like, go sit over there. You'll be the last member of this jury. Dude, that was fucking awful. That was insane, bro. That was actually fucking insane. I still can't believe that happened. That's the biggest talking point of the tonight for me. How does that happen? How do you let that happen? That's crazy. That's crazy. Um, but yeah, so we know Rizzo loses before the commercial break. Jeff tries to save it like this is the twist. But then he like at the next commercial break, he just he's like Rizzo loses in fire. Let's watch him lose in fire. Crazy, and maybe this helps kill the fire challenge somehow. Maybe this helps kill it, and we're just like no more fire challenge after this. We split on live television, but I doubt it. And we get to the fire making challenge, and I wasn't even fucking watching at this point. Jonathan wins. Oh my god, I'm shocked. It would be a crazy troll if somehow that was like incorrect, but it was so obvious. Like the players are even telling Jeff, like in the moment, like they didn't show fire yet. They didn't show fire yet. How does this happen? Like billion-dollar company, by the way, Paramount Pictures, CBS, billion-dollar company, NFL money. Nope. Crazy. Fucking crazy. That was the craziest part of the finale. Obviously, easily. How do you spoil that? And people who work so hard to be unspoiled, like myself, it's just you're putting your balls in our face. Damn, bro. But Jonathan wins fire. He erases his demon, and this was a really unfortunate fire making challenge where whoever lost this would have been on 2 seasons, and both seasons they both lost in the final four. And Rizzo gets to be that and join that exclusive group by himself as the only person to lose fire making twice. But I got to give props to Rizzo. I think he played the best game on the season overall, just because like I know the Surrey people are out there and whatever, but Surrey and Rick Devens were too high of threats levels, and maybe it's like Rizzo had an advantage of no one knew who he was, and like was he ever going to get votes at the end? Probably not. Um, but Rizzo played this shit so well, dude. Like he got rid of Surrey at 6. He still has a TIFF target ahead of him at 5. He has an idol anyway. Like he skated through with an idol again, bro. He did the same shit back to back. It's to the top 4 in 2 different seasons with newbies and with legends of the game. Like coming into the season, we all thought Rizzo and Savannah would just be cooked instantly because no one knew who they were, and these players always make it pretty far. But that didn't deter anything from Rizzo. Like I gotta give props to Riz God, RIZGOD legend, man. He's a legend. He is a legend. I will say that, bro. And I don't love the on-screen antics from him. I do resonate with the Gen Z because I am Gen Z, but like give the man his props. Respect to Rizzo. So something insane that happened. I brought this up in a couple weeks ago episode that there was apparently a spoiler. There'll be a family visit, which is all now that everything's out in the open. This is all circling back to something Jared Fields said, where he's like, "My brother gets to go on the family visit. I don't get to go," and I haven't even. This was not on my radar at all in the finale. And why squeeze this in now? That too, like. I love the family visit, but this is the first time you do it in 10 seasons in like a 10-minute segment on the finale. Like put that in the final 6. You probably had if the jury people's family went out there, fry this. Like we should have done this before. Why did we do this now? We had all the time to this now, but who knows? Joe's wife comes out and like, I think Joe definitely needed to see someone loved. Jonathan's gonna go home and fix some stuff. He's talking to his brother. Aubrey has his mom, but I thought there was gonna be a family visit, and I kept waiting around. I was like, they're gonna do it at 6, they're gonna do it at 7, or they're gonna do it at 8. Like, and I thought during when we didn't know the twist going into episodes 8, or with the 8 people left and the 7 people left, I was like, oh, maybe they do it there because like they don't have anything to do during those episodes. But there you go. Final three gets a family visit, nice with their morning breakfast. Aubrey talking about Michelle once again. Michelle was on the season more than Jenna Lewis, especially after the reunion where we didn't get to talk to Jenna at all. But I wonder what those people think. Like, if you're Jenna Lewis and you're like about to put your head in the pillow tonight, like, what do you think of it? You had to fly all this way just to do nothing on the screen besides drink a Corona. You know, I feel like that's bullshit. But family visit for the final three, nice. I always actually one of the things I do like about the new era and the thing they've been doing recently is at the final three when they have the jury talk on the screen, it's like these people might be supporting these people, but they kind of mention the good things about the game. It's cool to hear from the jury members. I know we're never gonna get like extended cuts into the jury or like Ponderosa ever again, probably just because the show hates doing fun things and having money. But I do like seeing the jury segments in the screen of like, oh, here's what Jonathan did well. If Joe can say this, like I might vote for him. If Aubrey did this well, and this was pretty. I feel like we only got like 1 or 2 people talking about each person, but this was jam packed. We could, I guess you had to get through everything else in the previous episodes, but like I don't know. So we get to final tribal council. It's pretty apparent to me, at least, that Aubrey's most likely going to win this. But I like I said in my short and at the top of this episode, I think it was a pretty good performance from both Jonathan and Aubrey. I think it just came down to who people like more, as it most of the time does. Look at season 49. No one really liked Sage besides Juwan, and Juwan voted for Sage. Sophie B and Savannah was like a toss up because everyone liked both of them probably. And then 48, people didn't really like Joe and Eva as much as it is crazy to say. People like Kyle better in season 47. You know, it was kind of just like Rachel's going to win this because we all want her to win. Season 46 is the biggest example of that. Kenzie, everyone just fucking loved Kenzie. 45, you could say that with D. 44, Jam Jam, everyone loved Jam Jam. Season 43, people just didn't know who to vote for, so like Cassie's kind of mean, so we're gonna vote for Gabler. Everyone definitely liked Marianne more than Mike and Romeo, and then Erica. Like that's who knows about that situation, but like it just comes down to who people like more, in my opinion, most of the time. And people definitely liked Aubrey more than Jonathan, as we see through some of Jonathan's rough interactions with people outside of his alliance, including Tiffany D. So yeah, I think there is a scenario where like I'm waiting for the postseason tea. That's the best part is when it all spills out. But I think there is a scenario where like you had like Tiff and like Suri and D like just whipping the votes. Well, it was probably like they loop in like Emily, and then Emily's like, hey, let's vote this way. Where like there is an aspect of it too, like coming out of it. I don't know if people would be proud or happy to have a new. There was talks that they wanted an old era player to win, so I'm not sure if like people would be excited to have Jonathan representing their season or have Joe. I know it didn't feel like Joe was ever going to really get a vote, but we have Tiffany seemingly fighting for Aubrey, where Tiffany is a little much on the jury. I think she's very like vocal, which is good, but also like let other people speak and like don't like impose your opinion on others. Stephanie goes on a glaze session for Jonathan, saying he's the total package, which was like definitely something she rehearsed for like days and days and days. And D's like, let's chill out. Like, we're all open here. Let's all just vote for who we want to, and like, don't take what they're saying into account because we still want to hear you guys talk and not like think there's already a predetermined outcome, which like most likely there was a predetermined outcome. But shout out to D. I wanted to see more D. D's fucking on. D was the best winner of the new era, but like debatably, Kyle probably played a smoother game, but like D's top 2 of the new era for sure. And she just dipped into the sunset of this. I guess she's a challenge girl now. But I thought this was a very weird tribal council. Not a ton of great questions. I did like the adaptation question from Ozzy. Coach kind of starts it off with what would you do in the real world versus now? What were the other questions? Aubrey got the story question. Actually, there were some good questions. Like the answers were kind of just like not memorable. I did like Christian's question as well of like what was your story throughout the game. I did feel as though Jonathan or Joe kind of knew Joe specifically knew he was like pretty defeated walking into this. Like it felt like he was kind of shoulders were down, body language wasn't great for Joe, poor guy. And then I think Aubrey and Jonathan both did fine. We get to the vote reveal where Aubrey wins in an 8-3 vote. Good for her, I guess. I'm not I'm not gonna parade Aubrey and say Aubrey won season 50, yay! There's definitely way more people, especially on that pre-jury part, that I definitely would have rather seen have win than Aubrey. Like pretty much everyone else on the jury. um, I'm gonna go through the board just real quick and say who I'd rather have win than her. I'd rather have Jenna win. I think I'd rather see Aubrey win than Kyle, to be honest. I feel like that'd be lame if Kyle just won again. Um, Q, I'd rather see win. Savannah, I don't need to see Savannah win. Maybe there's more people than you think too. Mike White, don't need to see him win. Genevieve, I'd rather see win. Kobe, I'd rather see win. Camilla's like pretty equal. Who else? Charlie. I don't know. I'm like indifferent on that one. So maybe D. I'd rather see if D won again. That'd be hype because she wasn't playing in the recent seasons. Chrissy would be cool to see win over Aubrey. No, kind of the same, I guess. Coach would have been awesome. Ozzy would have been like more respectable in my opinion. Sari would have just been amazing. Tiffany would have been better. Rizzo would have been better. Who else was on the jury? Emily would have been meh. Rick would have been great. Christian would have been great. So Aubrey's probably like bottom like half of the people I wanted to see win. So not the worst outcome, but not one that I'm gonna be like posting on Instagram being like, look at my girl Aubrey, she won. But I'm happy for her. New Hampshire pride, New England pride. She didn't like really trigger me as much as she seemingly triggered some groups online. I thought this was a fine appearance from Aubrey. Did she play the best game? I don't think so. I think Jonathan played better. I think Rizzo played better. I think Sari played better. I think Rick played better. Um, that's just my opinion. I think she was kind of passive in the middle. Like she'd play a decent middle game, but there's not really a ton of agency. She's kind of just going with the flow and then like letting everyone else take each other out and then be there at the end as like I'm the best threat of like the people left because I won a challenge. It's not my favorite game strategically or character wise. I also feel like she was edited very oddly at the beginning of the season. But good for her. She just won $2 million. Aubrey's in my area, New Hampshire. Um, Not really my area. I live 3 hours from New Hampshire, but I'm happy for her. If I'm ever in New Hampshire, Aubrey, I see that Survivor 50 car rolling around. I know who's in it, and I'm getting a picture with you. All right. So there you go. Aubrey wins an 8-3 vote. Jonathan Engels for a third time, saying third time's a charm. I don't need that in my life. I don't need a third Jonathan appearance. Just my opinion. Sorry, brother. Tina and Ethan are in the crowd. I love Ethan. I love Tina. That was great to see the winners. Apparently, there was a rumor all the winners were invited, but we only get to see the winner of season 2 and 3. Where's the winner of? Hey, where's that guy who won season 1? What's he up to? Where's the guy who won season 5? What's he up to? Where's the woman who won season 4? What's she doing tonight? I'm on to you, Survivor. But Tina and Ethan in the crowd. That was cute. I like seeing them. Ethan, bro. But sometimes the trailers is better than the seasons. I'm getting goosebumps when I thought, well, season 40 was better than that. But when Ethan was in that trailer, like, I beat cancer, now I'm here. Goosebumps, bro. Goosebumps. I love Ethan. And I like Tina. Anyways, Aubrey gets the car. Crazy, bro. Of everyone on the cast, we give Aubrey the car. Some people walked out with some gifts tonight. Rick got a coin. Ozzy got a t-shirt. Sari got a plaque and $100,000. Aubrey gets $2 million in a car. Charlie and Camilla got a cameo in White Lotus. I feel like the car was a little overboard. And you have her like run through this maze of the backstage to get there. Very odd to watch that. But yeah, we wrap it up with the CFan favorite. It's Mother Sari. The casuals didn't get us this time. I don't think they were united enough on somebody. I think the casuals do like Sari enough, so she does win this one. Should have won AFP and Big Brother. At least Sari's walking out of here with 100K, her retirement. And Jeff Liddy ends the reunion by saying, like, we're sad to say goodbye to season 15 to Sari. So this is probably it for Sari. I don't think Sari could ever win the game at this point, so it's fair enough, unless it's like a legends season, like her, Boston Rob, like it's like a Australia versus the world, like 14 people, or like 14 days, like 10 people or 12 people, whatever it was in that season. I think it's 14 people in like 20 days, or like 2 weeks. Unless it's like that and it's like really like Aubrey, Sari, Sandra, like Sarah, Lucina, Kim, like it would just have to be winners at War 2, like slash legends, like Russell Hantz is there, Boston Rob, Tyson, Tony, all your big hitters, Jeremy, like that season would go hard. That season would go hard, and don't even fucking lie to me. But like, that's really Sari's best chance is like somehow making it with like everyone around her is a massive threat. Like it's just threat on threat on threat on threat. And even then, like she could be cooked instantly after this game. So good time for Sari to walk out. She ran it once again, and I'll say, goodbye to Colby, goodbye to Coach, probably. Goodbye. Well, I don't know. You can never say never, but this was definitely it for Colby. I think he said, I would expect to see Ozzy back at a point. Um, some of the new era people we might not see again. I would be surprised to see like Joe again. I don't think Jonathan will be back on. Rizzo, I think Rizzo will be back on any season he wants to. Tiffany will be back on the next returner season that allows for more than two-time players. Who else? Christian will be back. Rick will be back. Sari won't be back. Emily, like, meh. I think if they call her, she'll take it. And then you have like Stephanie, maybe done, but like, who cares? And then Chrissy, like, probably won't be back. Um, D probably will be back for like maybe that legend season I was talking about. And then, Coach, who knows? Genevieve should be back, but she doesn't want to. Colby's gone. Camilla's probably not coming back, at least for a while. Charlie's probably cooked. Well, no, Charlie might be back. Angelina's probably cooked. Mike White's probably not coming back. Q will be back whenever he wants. Savannah will be back soon, probably as well. And then you have Kyle will probably be back, and and Jenna Lewis, like, maybe will be back. So not a goodbye to everybody, but a goodbye to some. Season 50 is in the books. Where do I rank this amongst the? I think this is the best new era season easily, just from the returner perspective and the nostalgia. I'm like that. Season 40 is my favorite season, so that's just the way I like to look at these seasons. I think this was a great season overall. In great episodes from week to week. Unfortunately, the last two were just kind of a stinker in both the boot order and like how the episodes were structured. So that's where we leave off season 50. Stay tuned. I will have one more video on season 50. It'll be the character tier list. So we'll be putting all 24 people on this season onto a tier list of how much I like them and what I thought they provided to the game. So that'll be interesting to look at after all this is over. Appreciate you guys sticking along to the ride. I'll definitely be back for season 51 as well. Oh yeah, we need to talk about the new era or the open era. 2 tries, maybe 21 people. It's confusing. Who knows what's happening? I'm really actually concerned about the direction of the show, but I'll be back in the fall to cover season 51 most likely. And maybe that'll be the time I bring on guests. Season 50, I'm talking to y'all for 45 minutes. I don't need guests here, but this has been so great covering it. I've talked to a lot of people in the comment section on my TikToks and on the YouTube videos, so appreciate you guys' support in both of those regards. And this has been a great season to cover, a great season to be in the hype and the build up for. I was at those idol searches. Sari ran away from me. It's all good. Yeah, like this was a fun season. Survivor feels good again. And it's like, let's keep the momentum going into 51. Will it? Who knows? But like, we're Survivor fans. We're going to be sitting down and watching no matter what. So that's what I have to say. It's been great. This feels like a true celebration. It was a celebration and it went how it went. But we have each other at the end of the day to complain if we need to. So appreciate y'all supporting me and stay tuned for more content. Not just in Survivor, more shows coming out, movie reviews, sports, all that sort of stuff you can expect on a typical Dubcast week. We got anything crazy going on. So that's it. I'm signing off for season 50. One more video, and I'll see you in that one. As always, be easy, y'all.